言うことは一つだけ。絶対負けねえ。
How's it going, everybody? This is Nothing Excess. I have a little bit of a weird video today. We're going to be talking about the mixer. And the reason we're talking about the mixer is because every time there is a K-Live Game Station live stream, everyone is wistful for the days of the mixer, and they want the mixer to come back, and they don't understand that the mixer is K-Live's way of taking value out of your hands and throwing it into the trash. And I wanted to spend some time and educate the players basically on why that's such a bad idea and why you need to ask for something better. And originally, I'm also gonna, what I'm actually gonna explain is that originally there used to be something better, and frankly, we moved away from that. And not only should we want something better, but I think it's almost important that we get something better, because without knowing exactly what it is that you're losing and without knowing what the alternative was originally, you can't really make an informed decision. So instead, you're just asking for something that was very abusive towards the players overall. And so let's begin. Player's guide: the mixer is bad. First off, let's talk about value, okay, or why you should respect your dupes. First off, let's talk about the value of an SSR. See, every SSR that you've ever pulled in the game has value, even the dupes and even the ones you think suck. That includes the Mexicans and the Netherlands players. Even useless SSRs have skills. Let's say you have this Alberto already and you pull like 3 more. Well, you have, there's S shutout block on this guy, so he has skills. So don't think of dupes as dupes or like things that just clog up your inventory. Dupes are actually skill sources. They're either for a different version of the same player that needs one of the skills, or they are level up butte tools for skills that a player already learned. So if you have, for example, this Alberto several times, technically you could level up his main skill to a much higher level. Now, if you talk to anyone, they'll tell you, hey, don't do that. And the reason they're telling you not to do that is because there used to be a feature back in the day that you could use your dupes at a specific time and you would be rewarded for it. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit too. Why is it that we hoard those dupes? Well, back in 2017 in Japan, at the end of the year, there was a samurai event, and the samurai event was an event where you could, it's like a special gacha, where you kick dream balls at it, and you could get special players, special units that were limited to just that event that had the Samurai Blue 2017 Japan uniforms. And they were really cool looking, and they had very strange and interesting abilities at that time. Stuff that we hadn't seen yet in the game. Really, really strong team skills. It was just, they were very interesting players at the time that really, really fit into the meta of the time and kind of controlled where the meta of the game would eventually evolve into. Anyways, originally during the winter, if you use natural SSR or UR players from the gacha to teach skills or enhance skills of other players, you used to get these little special blue medals in addition to the gold and silver medals that you already get. These medals were able to be traded for different rewards, among them the 2017 Samurai SSR tickets. And these had a chance of rewarding you with a 2017 Samurai Blue player, but also a bunch of other players. Now, this is important because not only were there SSR tickets, there were also like other kinds of players. Like you could get copies of an SR Aoi, an SSR Aoi that had a bob and weave defense at the time, which was an A skill, very desirable. Also, you could get other stuff like the Tachibana twins that had low and high baller. At the time, they were really, really important if you were trying to set up some very specific stuff for events, but they were quite nice. Anyway, the global version of the game did not get this when these players hit the global edition. At the time, we had what was known as a premier event. Now, a premier event was just an event that you farmed. It was kind of like the event that's going on right now, and you used to get medals. We didn't get them for goals scored. It was just winning the game got you some medals. It was a very, very low chance of getting gold medals, and then a pretty low chance of getting silver medals, and then sometimes you would get bronze or like blue medals. But anyway, as a result, we never got to get additional value from our dupes like Japan used to get. The global version knew about this feature, and we heard about the fact that Japan got this feature. So once we all learned about it, or at least the top players, started hoarding all of their dupes instead of spending them. And so you had a lot of dupes at the time. because you wanted to be able to get a chance at other SSRs. And we all wanted to get our hands on the 2017 SSRs. So how did it work? So basically, you sold or used an SSR player to teach or enhance a skill, and you gained some amount of gold medals and silver medals as you do now, but you also gained 40 blue medals. The store had the SSR tickets available in limited quantities at different tiers, with the most expensive tier being unlimited. So if you wanted an SSR ticket, you could get 120 blue medals and use them. You could do that twice. Then you could do 160 blue medals twice. And then after that, if you wanted SSR tickets, they cost 200 blue medals each. So basically, that means that your first 2 purchases of SSR tickets were worth 3 SSR players, then your next 2 were worth 4 SSR players, and every subsequent purchase was worth 5 SSR players. So if you've been saving up your dupes and you had like 50 dupes saved up, you'd have 2,000 blue medals, and that's good enough for 13 tickets. That's 13 SSRs. That is pretty good, especially if you were getting rid of dupes that you didn't need anymore. Now, obviously, there's no guarantee that those 13 tickets would be non-dupes, but you know, you would be feeling pretty good, especially because they could come. You could get some players from the 2017 banners through them. That also means that you would have had to been able to either teach or level up 50 levels worth of skills. So like, for example, let's say you had a lot of cool S skills, like maybe you had a bunch of dupes of like SSR Genzo at the time. You could have had a higher level SGGK catch, which was very valuable in that time. And also just other abilities. Maybe you want to level up Raiju Shot, maybe you want to level up Drive Shot, maybe you want to level up Misaki's Golden Duo. These are all things that had a lot of value. And so being able to use your dupes to provide value to your teams that you were already playing was very important. So let's explain the mixer and why it screws you over. The mixer transfer was a transfer that cost 5 Dream Ball Gacha SSR or UR players that returned a random SSR unit with a pool that also contained the featured players at the time, such as the 2018 Japanese kit players. The mixer transfer couldn't return any of the same copies of the players you put into it, so you were encouraged to put different players every time. So if you threw Nambasa in, Nambasa couldn't come out, for instance. There were some other features about the mixer transfer, but basically all you need to know is that they came around the 2018 World Cup events, and there was always one available throughout that. Now, that sounds okay at first, right? You can take 5 of your dupes that you weren't using and you put them into a blender and you hope for the best in another shot at the gacha. But it's a ripoff. Reality is that you're taking 5 items of value and you get back 1 item of value. The 4 net items that you're losing contribute nothing to you in their stay in your inventory other than occupying valuable inventory space. So for the entire time that you're waiting for this thing to come, they're just sitting in your inventory, not letting you get other things. Also, there's no guarantee that the result you get is desirable or useful to your team. You could just end up pulling a Mexican player that doesn't fit into your team at all and doesn't even have a skill that you can use. So basically the mixer means that you're losing value. When you use the mixer, you're trading 5 objects with value without using them at all, which means that you don't get your value for them. There's obviously the exception. You remove sub skills with special skill removal cards, and then you can throw that card into the mixer. So you could have retained some value, but that value costs you a special skill removal card. It's kind of a minor exception. Anyways, it means that the value for your 5 SSR players that you worked hard to get is completely lost and is replaced with 1 SSR player. And the value of that SSR player is almost always lower for you. Even if you got a player that you kind of wanted, you have to weigh whether that player was more valuable than getting 5 levels of a skill, especially if it was the 5 dupes that you had all had decent skills. It's just very possible that happens. So why have the mixer? Well, the mixer transfer is what K-Lab devised for both the Japanese and global versions after the 2017 Samurai system went away in 2017. And there's no certainty as to why they switched over. It's probably because it was a lot harder to understand that you could buy the tickets than it was to just go to a gacha and throw your players away quickly. Additionally, if you had a player that you had no real use for, just selling it for the medals admittedly doesn't feel great. That's probably why they moved away from the blue medal situation. The problem though is that the real reason we're holding on to dupes in the first place was specifically because the global players caught wind that the Japanese players got this blue medal thing. Also, the global version doesn't really value leveling up a player's skills because it'd simply rather gamble dupes away. The Japanese version, it was originally common to just merge dupes. In fact, in the global version, it was common for players to fuse dupes early on to level up skills until they learned about the 2017 Samurai SSR tickets. Japan used to merge all their dupes all the time, and then they stopped simply because of this, and so they expect stuff like this to happen again. That means that they're holding on to pieces of value and not getting any value out of them other than the space they occupy in their inventory because they want to use them to have a chance at other SSRs, because sometimes that's really valuable, unfortunately. So we wanted blue metals originally. Ultimately, the entire reason we held on to the dupes in the first place was to get the blue metals. The first mixer transfer appeared because the Japanese version was giving people blue metals for their dupes. That's like why we got the mixer in the first place, was because that was a thing that the Japanese version used to have and now that we have. And we never got that. The global version only knows the disappointment of the mixer. So, are there alternatives? Is there any way that we can improve the mixer? Well, the mixer could work. Frankly, there are ways that the mixer transfer could be made that would be much nicer to the players, and as a result, that would be, that'll actually make it worth. The biggest concern with the mixer is that it's a way for KLab to take SSRs you earn without giving you equal value, or at least without letting you trade in such a way that feels respectful to your time and investment. The problem, though, is a little community-centric. I'm going to call a lot of you out now, especially my Latino friends. You know which ones I'm talking to. Most players don't understand that the mixer is a ripoff. If you don't understand why it's bad, or you're willing to settle because you're just desperate with a slammed inventory, or because you really don't care and you just are a low-effort player and you don't give a crap, then you don't know why to ask for better, or that it's even possible for you to have anything better at all. Also, most community members are more or less very accepting of whatever abuse KLab just shovels your way. And I am guilty of this just as much as you are. I often, I used to complain a lot more about the rates and used to complain about more stuff, and I've kind of died down, I guess, in later age. I don't know if it's because of cynicism or whatever, but it's not good. It's not a good look. We should be more demanding from our game developer that provides a service to us, especially if they expect to earn our money. Now, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could focus the mixer. There's a lot better ways to implement the mixer, some of which are very player friendly. Right now, 5 for a random unmixered 1 is not very friendly at all. So here's an idea. What if when I submit 5 players, I get to pick one of 5 players. So let's say I throw in this batch of 5, and you give me a batch of 5, and I get to pick one. Now, this is added value because it's much less random. So long as the 5 players are always unique and you never can put 2 of the same player in the pile that I'm getting back, then that's valuable. You could also do stuff like color mixers. Like every now and then, when you're going to do those pickup transfers, like for green players, you can make a green mixer. And so if I throw in 5 players, I get to pick one of the green players that comes up. And that's just a lot of value, right? Especially if you make limited pools. That would be actually very, very, very friendly. Probably maybe too friendly, but it is what it is. Like, it's just something that KLab needs to come to grips with. Like, they have to give their players a little more value from what they're giving them right now, because a 3% rate is awful, especially in a game where SSRs are the only viable way to compete. You need to just give more ways for those players to get those SSRs. It does result in a net loss of value to trade for 5 for 1, but having more control over what you get can sometimes make you feel less cheated. Although sometimes you're just going to get 5 garbage players and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, for example, if I'm playing blue here, this is not a good result for me, right? Like, if I already have Cha, then what else am I going to do? But it might encourage me. Maybe I am only a few pieces short of a red team, and it's mostly red European, so maybe I take Mueller here because I don't have him yet. So you never know. There's always, it's simply a better idea. Idea 2, mix 10 to pick 1. What if I submitted 10 players, and by submitting those 10 players, I just get to pick 1 player from the same class of player? Maybe I can only do this once every so often. Maybe it's like something that appears and that's account wide and it refreshes once per year. Like every new year, this transfer lasts for 365 days and you can only use it once, but you get to throw 10 dudes at something, or maybe it refreshes every 3 months. I don't know. However you want to handle it. What if I could submit 10 players? Just let me pick 1. If I throw in 10 Dreamfest dupes, I can pick a Dreamfest player. If I throw in 10 Gacha dupes, I get a Gacha player, and so on. So basically, I'm trading in a lot of value here, but it's an interesting way to avoid players that ask for stuff like sparking from Grand Blue and stuff like that. You eventually get what you want if you're generally lucky enough overall, and if you've invested enough, whether it be time or money or whatever, or what have you. But this goes a long way towards making players feel a lot less frustrated. There's a lot of other games where just eventually spending enough or you spending enough dream balls just eventually is like, okay, sure, what do you want? Here, have it. And that's not too bad. Maybe just don't ever allow it for limited characters like the 2018 banner characters. Maybe Dreamfest, Dream Collection, and Gacha are all viable. Maybe that's okay. Maybe allowing players to take their bad luck and transform it into something good is not a bad thing. It's not bad to be generous to players. I mean, and it's not bad for your wallet either, because if you're generous to players, players are generally generous back. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that's not going to make the money. I beg to disagree. Grand Blue is making money hand over fist doing stuff like this. And it's not just because it's cute kawaii characters just beating the crap out of each other. It's also because the gacha has ways of making you feel like what you put into it gives you back. It's still keeping the potential for money making, of course, since getting, say, that young juicy Dreamfest Ken is still require plenty of dupes. But it is what it is, and frankly it's still pretty abusive because you're losing 10 pieces of value to just pick one piece of value, and it's a lopsided trade. But because there's no such thing as trading in this game, maybe getting, like, fully eliminating randomness has a lot of value. In fact, I would wager that this is probably the most valuable idea. And now, frankly, the third idea is just go back to blue medals. Listen, the old system was honestly not that bad. Being able to get some cheaper random players at first, even if they can be the same players you used, from having to only trade in like 3 SSRs and 4 SSRs, and then also using them for their intended purpose, which is to level up your skills or give new skills to other players. It's just a good solid fit for the current game and the way that the game already plays. It needs the least work to implement since it's already existed, and it remains the least generous option. It is at least a return to previous generosity, and it allows players to retain some amount of value or get value back from the dupes other than maybe a shot at full randomness. Listen, KLab, just do something good, okay? Everyone's hoarding dupes because they expect to be able to do something cool with them now, other than just use them to level up skills. And that's why everyone wants the mixer. It's because they want to be able to throw them or use them in such a way that it generates value for them for the teams or for the pieces that they're missing. But a lot of the times, those pieces are not, like, you're not giving them any real chance to earn those pieces, right? I don't know how best to explain it. It's just KLab right now, if you're a player right now, KLab is not really looking out for you, and there's no reason that they shouldn't. They should look out for you. They should want to make players happy. The system they decided to give the global version is broken, and it's no good, and it's abusive. And KLab set this expectation up. They created this expectation of us being able to use our dupes to potentially get players that we want. And so maybe that system just needs to be rethought in such a way that's not random gambling. A better system is a great way to foster goodwill among your community, and frankly, although you have done, I think KLab has done, taking good strides towards maybe improving their relationship, every now and then they commit like some pretty big gaffes, like, I don't know, World Cup Awe. And you kind of want to keep the community in your good graces, you know? The Dream Championship is a cool way to foster community and to encourage it. These friendly match systems and regulations are a cool way to encourage the community and and help it grow, especially on the competitive aspect. But there's more that you could do, and sometimes it involves taking just raw care of your players and to make sure that they get value when they invest time and money and effort into your game. So my conclusion is KLab could do better. KLab should do better, and the mixer is not good for you. And hopefully I've outlined why the mixer is not good for you and why there's just much better options. A lot of people are going to be like, well, it's just whining. It's not whining. I'm looking out for you. I'm looking out for myself. I think that as a community, we need to not accept being treated poorly. We need to encourage and really demand that KLab treat us better, right? Because, I mean, we're the source of their income, basically. The players, even the free-to-play players are the content that the richer players need around so that those players can provide a challenge and so that the whales or the high spenders can feel or the need to, like, defeat, right? Like, a good free-to-play player shouldn't be so bad that a whale can just walk over them. The whale should have to work a little bit, and if the whale has to work a little bit and play better and maybe invest a little bit more so that they can have a team that can beat anybody, then by being more generous, they're not going to improve that much, and the people around them will improve enough that maybe they'll feel a little bit more of that challenge again, because those players will have more complete teams. And when those players don't get too lucky but at least get a lot of random parts of value, they might be able to put together stuff eventually simply by being able to trade in the pieces that they don't need. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions about what I've been talking about, or you have any comments, just leave them down in the comments below. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. We reapplied for monetization, so we'll see what YouTube thinks about that. Channel memberships right now are not available. Don't believe this slide until you see that channel memberships are available. But once they do become available, please click join if you would like, and that helps support the channel. Also, if you would like, or if you can, please support the channel financially. You can go to the bottom, click on the donation tab, on the donation link if you'd like. I haven't streamed in a bit, but that's going to change soon. Probably not this weekend because last Pro Series is happening. I'm going to go hang out with my friend Warall over at the tournament, and also I'm going to go watch some Counter-Strike. That should be fun. But after this weekend, almost certainly I'll be streaming. But yeah, if you want to support, you could also join the Patreon. The Patreon gets a lot of cool, interesting content. One of them being that if you need help with your teams, or you need a team doctor help at any point during the day or whenever, you can just hit me up and I will give you any help that I can offer. And also there's just stuff like certain tiers get stuff like early access to the PDFs, sneak peeks at videos, sneak peeks at stuff. So yeah, hopefully you guys think that's worth it and you want to jump in on that. But if not, you know, even if it's just $1 a month, that's always certainly very helpful, and I appreciate any little bit that anyone wants to help with. Thank you guys for checking me out. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys soon.